The Azalea cult.
Only American fans will appreciate it. They are Detroit Lions fans. That's what they are.
Yes,
they keep
100%.
believing that someday we're gonna get there, guys.
They've got the best. They've got the best internet meme. They've got the best internet meme game.
Yeah.
Like they've got just like the coolest, like most fun fans. Sorry, everyone else.
They have the equivalent of the thing. Right? Their Azalea's inability to win in majors is the same as it's like a perfect. It's perfectly represented by Dan Orlovsky as the quarterback of the Lions, just running out of the back of the end zone for a safety while still looking downfield, believing he was going to somehow throw a touchdown, and Jared Allen just going, he's out of bounds. We just like blow it dead or something. And the ref's just standing there completely in shock.
He still believes he can complete that pass to this day.
To this day, he's still looking downfield.
He has nightmares where he's like, I got him. This week, I muted my first person on Twitter, and it was glorious. One of the greatest things ever. But before I tell you that short elevator speech, and not Dane's elevator, I will do a true elevator speech on it. I will. We're going to give you our question of the week. So we're doing a question of the week every week. We're looking for a sponsor for it, so it'll be question of the week sponsored by, My Underpants or something like that.
Gillette Pro Guard. Yeah.
We're not looking for paid sponsorships. We want your Twitter handle, something like that. Give us the and even come up with a question. Maybe we'll use it.
I feel like if you sponsor it. I feel like if you engage with the question in a way that makes us fucking laugh or makes us be like, oh yeah, it's a really good point, you can be the sponsor of the question because you've earned. Yeah. You're supporting the question. You're the sponsor for the week.
Yeah. So we'll do a sponsor question. Yeah. So the question of the week this week, and if you listen to this after it happens, just chime in with what you thought of the results. So we want to know with the upcoming this weekend, I believe it is in Singapore, right? Calling.
Yeah.
Do you think people will bring the best deck to the event, or will they hold back a little bit with the Pro Tour so close? So that's part 1A of the question. And 1B is what is going to win? I don't want top 8 because who cares? Just tell us what deck's going to win. What deck do you think will win this weekend? And like I said, if it's after the fact, just say, wow, this was the result. It was crazy. Never thought this would win. Or it's exactly what I thought. I should have been on here 3 days earlier to post that. That is exactly what I thought with that 60 card deck. I just didn't get a chance to post it. So
too bad.
Simple. We love the feedback we're getting. We'll get into the question from last week later in the episode. So my funny little story, real quick. I made a little post. James White straight bringing the heat on the whole Blitz topic. Okay, so we asked the question. James fuck you guys. I'm bringing the heat, and didn't back down. So I just posted the same thing I said in the podcast, who spiked the punch bowl, and somebody got offended by it. And I never thought somebody would get offended by an obvious joke. So we went back and forth a little bit and just basically said, you're not my audience then if you didn't find it funny. I didn't find that funny. It was I read it in a very serious voice. I didn't find that funny, which is fine. You didn't find it funny. Then don't fucking comment on it because it's an obvious joke. I don't actually think they're in the studio mixing. Well, they might. Okay, I'm not going to say I don't think they're in the studio mixing drinks because I guarantee it they probably are mixing drinks at some point, having a cocktail or two. So I don't want to say that. I don't want to be a liar. So I muted, which is an amazing feature about Twitter. I get a message from somebody. We'll say their name is anonymous, and they're like, "Why were you talking to yourself?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Twitter. I'm looking at why is Jason talking to himself and answering his own responses? And he goes, "Oh, I muted that person as well. That's why." So I felt vindicated. Yes, somebody else muted me or muted the same person. So fun story, whatever. Love Twitter. You can mute people. God, it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Can I follow up on that though? Because like that I respect James for digging his heels in like that and being like, nah, this is why we do this. Blake actually totally turned me around on it, because last week when we were talking about it on the episode, I was of the mind that I thought it was just dumb. I just didn't like the fact I felt like if you have a test that tests piloting, right, and say that it's 80% skill, 20% luck. That's what CC is, right? Just hypothetically, not throwing out real numbers. And even if I don't think anyone would argue that Blitz takes more pilot skill, right? So even if Blitz is 79% skill and 21% luck, like even if it's only that small of a difference, why include it? Because it's a lesser test. But Blake brought up that like maybe they're not testing pilot skill. Maybe they're testing like ability to keep track of two different metas, and they want to see who can keep that knowledge and play through that. And it's a whole different. I was very close-minded on that, so I thought that was a very valid point. Where if instead during Worlds you want to test someone's ability to have free time, then test that ability for sure. So
I still not a fan of it. I actually listened to Zach from Team Covenant on the beginning of their live stream. He gave a big spiel on variance and percentages of differences that I'm not even going to come close to repeating.
I don't care about all that.
I liked it. I liked his point of why he doesn't like it, and it wasn't because I don't like Blitz, which we had a huge argument about. It wasn't a huge argument. It was a discussion that just typical of us in our private chat.
Well, I don't think that so when someone said that, I don't think that we ever talked about our personal feelings of Blitz, because I think we all play Blitz. I don't hate Blitz at all. I just think it's a dumb test of pilot skill when compared to the good test of pilot skill. That was my point.
I've run Cheyenne for several weeks, right? And I'm 5 and 6 with her. I run what's his name, Chain, just to see if I really suck at Blitz or if my deck just sucked with Cheyenne. And I go top 4 with him and had a really close top 4 game with Kyle. I won in Swiss. He beat me in the top 4 match, which you son of a bitch, get me when it counts even more. But it's still, I mean, I had some turns that it was just stupid. Like with Chain, it was just like, okay, my opponent can't win. This is a really stupid turn. So I mixed emotions. Yes, the top 8 was a lot of better players, not considering myself a better player, but there was a lot of better players in the top 8. So that part of it held true to James White's argument. But I also had some matches that it was ridiculous. I had a match against Dorinthia. There's nothing he could have done different. Blocked this whole hand, and he's at 12 life on turn 0 because I had an Art of War. So I mean, there's both sides to it, obviously.
Right. I think the issue with the argument of, well, I had my deck did some crazy thing, or this deck does something broken. I was listening to Instant Speed podcast. I listened to the episode that Flake did where he brought on Zach and he brought on Michael Hamilton and a couple other guys. And I thought Michael Hamilton actually made a couple points that were, in my opinion, really valid. And Flake brought up something that was really clear, which was he mentioned that tracking the meta and the difference in decks is a big part of it, because in Constructed, you have tempo opportunities. You can play Prism, you can play Rhinar, you can play even Dorinthia now, because those decks, they thrive in a long game because what they do gets better over time. And sometimes they need to take a turn where they just absorb 15, then take control of the game. And those decks just aren't good in Blitz, because if you look at Blitz, the fundamental structure of the game is different in that format, in that the only decks that are good are hyper aggro and hyper control. So they just exist. It exists in a very like counterintuitive sense of the fact that there is no real tempo sense. It's either you have to come in choosing the option that you have and you have to go with it. The other thing he said that, in my opinion, was maybe the best point of the whole podcast was everybody is complaining because it's variance. And I feel like what we've done now is Flesh and Blood has become a hot word game. Every time a topic comes up, we pick a word or a phrase, and by God, we are going to murder it. We will drive that SOB into the ground, and we will completely obliterate the ability to look at that in a normal world sense and ever acknowledge its existence.
Hearing anyone use the word variance in my day-to-day life is now ruined.
It's just like when we did conversion rate. My God, if there was something in the real world that ever referenced conversion rate, I couldn't even take it seriously anymore because it was just god awful.
As a banker, that word's used a lot in my daily life. Like conversion rate's pretty big.
You probably get a little giggle out of it thinking about the absurdity of how serious it seemed to be approached in Fab. And I think that that's the thing with variance is like everyone is like variance. And I think what ends up happening is we actually lose the fact that some of the things James White said were 100% valid, and we can acknowledge that there are two separate things happening. One, this can be fundamentally true, and this can be objectively true. It is true that the best players win the most games in Flesh and Blood, regardless of the format.
Yes.
Sealed,
okay.
Limited, Blitz, Constructed. And I understand that.
Yes.
I think you guys fully believe that.
Yes. And I was just going to say, I want to jump ahead of the comments before they start hitting us with like the Blitz takes skill 2 fucking retorts. Right. It's like, we absolutely know that. And like my example at the beginning of like, even if it's like, I don't think that anyone's going to say that Blitz takes more skill, right? Am I safe there? Maybe comment below if you think Blitz takes more skill. But my comment from the beginning was that even if it's just a little bit less, why include the test of the little bit less when I was looking at it from that mindset of wanting to test pilot skill?
And I would still argue that I think that that's where, to me, that's where Zach is a little off base. And I like Zach. I appreciate all he does for games in general. And I like him as a player. I appreciate that he always comes ready to discuss his point and has a good stand. He always has a firm foundation to stand on, and he is willing to admit if his opinion might not be perfect, but it's opinion. I think the issue is a lot of people who argue really far on one side. I think the people who are pro Blitz are probably, in this case, maybe a little more rational because they're just saying like, I don't think I don't think the game that's as bad as you think it is. And the people who tend to think Blitz are bad kind of in some ways have an elitist attitude where they're like, well, I'm constructed. I don't play Blitz. It's like, I get it. I get it.
I am an elitist. Fuck you, everybody else. What I say is an elite opinion, and you listen to me.
Yeah, my big thing with Blitz is the fact that it's not. I don't think it's testing the same variables, and I just think that that's the fact, right? You're not testing. It's Flesh and Blood, but it's a different version of the game because
I'm gonna give you one positive. The one positive. Fast effing game. So you're like 8 hours into this. You're like, Blitz, sweet. We're going to be done quick. All my games are good. So let's roll in. We're going out of order of our show notes.
Sure.
Controller in the back room. We're just going to go out of order. We're going to drop down.
Yeah,
that's just a side note. So if you're bringing a Blitz deck, I have two, and I have reasons why I may consider two decks that I would bring. So for us personally, if we were going to Worlds and we were playing the Blitz event, what would we bring? I'll start. I would bring between Chain and Oldham. Oldham, because the whole variance thing goes completely out the window. You don't have to worry about variance, essentially, at that point, because he's going to help mitigate all that. It's just what Oldham does. He can play a longer game and do what Oldham does. But I'd more likely, because of the point of the time and just the fact the deck can just win sometimes, I'd probably bring Chain. I love playing the deck. It's fun to play. Most of the games are rather quick just because it's Chain and he's going to puke out a shit ton of damage very quickly. So if I was going, I'm probably bringing Chain. End of the day, I'm going to use the word and I'm going to look at positive variance that if I'm playing five 5 games, 1 or 2 of those, my deck's gonna just go fuck you to my opponent and spit out. Because if I go first, like I said, if you got an Art of War in hand and you're going first, I'm going. I'm going. Let's go. I'm gonna see how much I can push on turn 0. So probably chain for me.
I mean, I only play one Blitz deck. His name is Kano. Because if we're going to play a high roll format, if you make me make a decision on turn 0, if I'm going to die, or turn 1, yeah, let's go. Let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. Because my attitude is simple. If I go first and I draw Aether Wildfire Energy Pot, you're dead. You can't win the game. There's no world where you can win the game. I mean, if you have AB4 or AB3 or Spell Void,
I ran AB3 with Spell Void 2, and I played Fates twice on Kano. Yeah. Obviously, knowing exactly what he's trying to do the whole time and exactly what moves the block makes difference. But it was very hard for him because by turn 2, I had to force him to go off, and that's why I wouldn't bring Kanos, just for the reason that you had 2 turns to get your combo.
Sure. I've played into chains and they don't bother me because you can't empty your hand. If you empty your hand and I have a Wildfire, an Arsenal, and Energy Pot, you lose.
Right. Well, I don't empty my hand. Why would I do that? That's ridiculous.
Well, then I'll make sure you empty your hand. That's my job as Kano. That's where I think you have to play the game differently. I think too many Kanos, and that's in my personal opinion, a lot of Kanos and Blitz are bad players. I think a lot of people who play Blitz and Blitz Kano think that they win because they Arsenal Wildfire and they have no clue what they're doing. That's my personal opinion. That's why I think I'm in the Discord, like the Kano Discord, and every time I go in there, I just want to poke my own eyes out and then delete Discord for all eternity because people are like, I don't know how to win this matchup. And I'm like, take a different line, maybe. You could try that. Don't Arsenal Wildfire into that deck. Don't play it as an OTK strategy into that deck. You got to play something different.
OTK. No.
Do it on the fly. Do something different. You know what? I said it last week. I had a Kasai who flipped AB5 on me. You know what? You don't
doesn't mean shit if you got a bunch of reds and yellows in hand.
So, and I'm going to tell you, AB5 is the best arcane barrier for a Kano player in Blitz. Mm-hmm. Like if I see AB5, I'm like, oh, thank you for the free victory. Yeah, because you just allowed me to set up my deck exactly how I want, and you're going to lose. So I hate AB3 is the best to run against Kano. It's the most annoying.
Card. Right.
Yep. It's the most annoying to run.
That's the thing too, though, is I think even then you don't have to do a lot of work. You just have to test people's hands. And I think that's the other thing is, in my opinion, again, as somebody who plays basically exclusively Kano and Blitz and has for God knows how long, it's very simple. You know what? Sometimes you got to do the same Castell. You got to run down the court. Our boy Dylan style, big balls, man. You got to just go for it. And you go, you know what? I got 1 card in hand. I'm going to make them show a blue. If they don't pitch a blue to my first thing, then they die right here. That's all you got to do. It's not that hard. Sometimes you got to go for it. But that's Kano in a nutshell.
That's the nice thing about Blitz with Kano, too, is when you do go for it, you have a lot more hits because there's not so many cards. So when you do throw up the Hail Mary, honestly, I've thrown up the Hail Mary enough times with Kano and Blitz. We're like, oh, we'll see what happens. And then you just win. You're like, and you kind of laugh to yourself. You're like, oh, fuck, I found that already. Nowhere.
You know what? If you eye and gaze and optical lens 6 cards, you know what? It goes from 10%, like 6 out of 60. That feels good. 6 out of 40 feels amazing because chances are you've gone through a couple of cards. You know it's a few on the bottom of your deck. Like, by the time you see six cards of your 40 card Blitz deck, you've probably seen like 15 cards. Like, you know how much easier the game gets when you only have 20 possibilities of cards you could see.
I just wouldn't want to play him after you're in a world. There's already all that pressure. You drafted, you have to overthink. Then you play all the rounds of CC, you overthink. Like Kano and Blitz isn't like, oh, it's easier because it's Blitz. You're still thinking super hard about every single turn and interaction. And I just think at that point, I just want to play Chain, Banish, Art of Wars, and
I think
just kind of no-brain it.
Yeah. But I think that's where, if you look at the field, that's where you're going to see a lot of variance actually in the field, not in the decks, but in what people play. I think you're going to see a lot of differences in the decks because I don't think people are going to show up with just whatever they think is the best deck. They're going to show up with what they think they can win with because it is the end of the tournament, and they desperately want to win those rounds, and they need to be prepared to win those matches. It's entirely possible that their future in the top 8 or not in the top 8 or where they land in the top 64 in the money relies completely on their blitz structure. So the question is, as much as Chain can just, flip a middle finger at your opponent and go, hey, guess what? You lost to my deck, not to me. Chain can also lose to himself sometimes, where he flips 3 misses and just goes, oh yeah, I don't really have much of a turn here. And I get that that's not like commonplace.
Yeah, it doesn't happen much.
Right. But it feels, in my mind, as somebody who feels entirely confident on Kano and feels really comfortable with every line and how that deck functions, I would feel just as bad about that as, pitching to Kano and hitting a blue.
Up to 4 shackles, I had 1 hit.
Right.
The rest are all misses, and I still won by landslide. He just doesn't. Hitting is because if you get to your last shackle, you're gonna have 2 howls and a bunch of blues, and it's gonna be 20-some damage. So you can still push. I don't know. What are you gonna do, Dane? What are you bringing? What are you playing?
I mean, I've just talking blitz deck. I would just bring Benji and hope that I run into someone who doesn't have enough 2 armor pieces, because I have done 0 testing on blitz. I played blitz for fun, but it's never been like what blitz deck is good. I've never played like the hotness in blitz.
See, so you should just bring KO at that point and just fucking roll dice.
Honestly, I hate dice in card games more than probably anything else in this world. So
I know you do.
Never in my life would I do that. Valda, I might bring Valda just because she's fucking fun and people might not know exactly what she's doing. So I don't know. But probably Benji, just for old time's sake, and because at that point I'm like, I did really well in the draft and CC, and I'm gonna be fine with 2 wins here.
That'll be curious what people need for wins, because the whole, if it's beginning, it this and that, it matters. I'm sorry, regardless of where it is in the tournament, those matches matter. So it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
No, for sure.
You're at.
What I'm saying though is that if I am going there, I know what I have for free time in my life, and because LSS is choosing that they want to, they're testing their players' abilities to have free time by knowing 2 metas. It's like I have to choose
3 metas.
3 metas, but it's a little easier for draft because it doesn't ever change. There's no shift to that. It's the 3 heroes.
I mean, but you still want to practice.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're going to World, you still want to practice draft.
Right. Okay. So what's more intensive, practicing draft, practicing CC, or practicing blitz?
To me, practicing draft, because I know what's in my deck.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's there. So to me, that's not intense. It's just seeing some lines.
Sorry, what takes more intensive practice to go in confident with? Like, do you think that it's like I need to draft because like draft is gonna change. Like you're gonna draft as much as you possibly can locally. Sure, great, do that. You're gonna go sit down at Worlds and you're gonna be like, I don't know what the fuck anyone's doing.
Well, that's why you draft more, is to try to learn what the people are doing. So anytime I've drafted locally, which is the whole 2 times, I have guessed.
All right, let me change it. I don't want to. I just give up on the heated thing. I am not putting my time into draft or blitz
around me.
Yeah,
to see if I'm right, if I'm actually reading the cards right. Because you have to see if you are reading the cards right or wrong by doing multiple ones. You're like, okay, I think him and him. You can't go more than, what's next to you, what's here, and maybe one more you could guess.
Adjacent. So what I'm saying though is that once you have that skill, you're starting to hone that skill in. That's not changing. There's nothing changing with that. That's the same. What's in your packs when you get them, knowing what's been taken and what you think other people have, that's not changing. The people next to you are, but the set is static.
Yeah, but the set is 300 cards, and you have to see a million different variations of those cards to understand what the best combinations of those cards is when given different options. You're effectively doing a deck blind every time. There's a reason that the best players in the world going to France,
I am not saying draft does not take skill. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if I'm worried about something, sorry, go ahead.
What I'm saying is very simple. I understand your point. I get it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. The intensive practice in your mind needs to go to constructed. But a person like Cale McCreath, who knows what their deck does and knows what the other deck does, do you think he's even bothered about constructed practice? He'll run some games, yeah. But at this point, he feels confident in his constructed play. He knows what he's doing. Draft, however, almost all of those players that are going to France for the Pro Tour, why are they getting together for 3 days before it and drafting in a house? Why aren't they constructed practicing?
To get those reps in, for sure.
Because
but you asked me
to do a million reps of practice to understand draft at the highest level, because draft is the thing that you need the most practice on.
That's valid.
To sort out the details of.
That is 100% valid. I'm changing my response to say that I know I'm never even going to touch being as practice on draft as those high level players. I need to know the basics of what I'm doing for a set, and I'm rolling with that and hoping I get a shitty draft pot, I guess. On Blitz, that's a second meta and a second deck I need to test, and I'm not doing that because I don't have time for that either. So CC is where my focus is going to be at.
Right. But
I feel like that's the bulk of the middle of the day. And that the question is what I was doing, right?
Right. But if we're being honest, Jason was asking what deck you would be piloting in Blitz specifically, but realistically, draft is the thing that will comprise the actual highest percentage of your opportunity to win at the World Championships. It's 6 rounds and the other 2 are 5. So
that's
technically, if you want to practice the thing that's the most weighted, it's draft.
And that's fair.
I still think that the argument that it's about time is kind of a poor argument to be like, well, they're testing who has the most time. It's like, no, they're testing who's the most committed, because that's who will force the time into their life.
That sounds like semantics.
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's one and the same. I'm going to go with that's a one and the same.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I would argue that it's not, because I think if you have choices in your life, force time that you don't use right now. Could you wake up an hour earlier and schedule some time with someone to practice an hour every morning at the beginning of your day? You could choose to do that. That's not saying that somebody who gets up, it's just like there's a reason I don't have 6-pack abs that Tommy Buckboy down the street does, because he wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning and makes the choice to go down and work out like crazy. And I choose to work out at a reasonable level, because I know that I don't have the commitment to do that long term. But if he does, power to him. It's not that I don't have the time. I'm making the choice to not have the time, because I could set my alarm an hour earlier, but I don't want to. I don't want to do it. Just like people who want to win at the highest level and be the world champion, they're making the choice. Professional athletes in the summertime, in the off season, the best players in the world get up at 6 a.m. before their families do on vacation. They go run at the beach with their personal trainer who they flew with them. Do they just have more time than the other guys who aren't as good as them, or are they more committed and are making the choice to force the time into their life when they could sleep in because they're on vacation?
That's valid. All right.
Say at a top 20%, you're about the same. You're all equally committed.
Sure.
And all want,
Maybe.
And then as you drop, obviously that number gets wider and wider. And I could be the most committed player ever, but like there's only so many hours in a day for some people. No matter how much commitment you are, you're just going to get, some people are going to have more time with the same commitment. I could want it more than anything in the world, and I have 3 hours of free time every day, getting up early and going to bed late, and somebody else could want it and have 5 hours. So it's a little bit of both.
But the chances of that have a lot to do with the life that you've chosen to live and they've chosen to live. If they're 25 years old living on their own, there's nothing you can do about. You can want it as bad as them. But yes, to your point, Jason, I would 1000% agree that the three of us could have the want as bad as some of those people. Difference is we don't have the time.
No, because we could get up early, Blake. We could get up earlier.
But is it on LSS to go, well, no, we're only going to do 2 formats for all the dads, because they don't get to have as much free time. You know what?
And that
sucks to suck, man.
That is that.
LSS. A dad tournament. You have to be a dad to enter, or mom, parent to enter the tournament. We'll call it the parental tourney.
Yeah, no, that is literally, that's why I brought it up at the beginning, that is literally the argument that swayed me on why Blitz isn't, that's a fine choice for them to do. Like, I get that. I agreed with you from the beginning on that.
Right.
I'm saying for me, I don't have the time, not the commitment. I just the excess time I have, you know what, it is commitment. Fuck it. I have chosen to divvy out my time differently. All right. So I play a miniatures game now, and I wake up and have coffee with my wife instead of testing. And I stay up watching Supernatural with my wife instead of that's commitment. I get that. Yeah. That's fine. And that's why I'm not doing blitz test or fucking draft testing.
And here's the thing though, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either side of that. Like if you have the free time to be doing it, cool, whatever, that's fine. There's also the side of it where you could say, you know what? There are actually some of these guys, I would say that a Kale McCreath is probably actually has a leg up on a Zach Bunn, because Zach admitted on the Instant Speed podcast that he doesn't really know anything about the blitz meta. And some of his arguments about it, that he was making anti-draft or anti-blitz arguments, he's like, I mean, the format might have got better. And it's like, he doesn't even know the format. He's arguing against it, which means he has a huge hurdle to jump now. So doesn't someone like Kale, who goes to every armory and plays at every local, chooses to play all the formats, I mean, to some degree, shouldn't those players be benefited? Like, shouldn't they get a benefit or something?
For sure.
Like, they should.
They should be better off because they have the time or commitment, whatever, either or to do all of that.
But hold on. I mean,
but let's keep going with this. Going with this because Commoner is becoming huge in a lot of areas.
Right.
And has been argued. So if they add that into the next worlds, is that cool too?
All four.
If they choose that to be their format, they choose that to be their format. They're writing a check. They should do whatever the hell they want.
Well, no, I understand that, but I don't ever
LSS
think a company, because they're writing a check, should do whatever the hell they want. Because at some point you have to take a balance, and I'm saying balance because you weigh the pros and cons like anything. Take a balanced feedback from the community.
Yep.
So if you have 80% that don't like something, you shouldn't just cancel it, but you re-look at it and re-talk about it as a company, right?
This would be my counter argument to that. Are we talking accessibility at local armories or in the World Championships? Because if the NFL or the NBA chooses to host a neutral site championship or something else, they do whatever they want versus the fans. The fans are different than them. If LSS watches coverage of the World Championships and they say, man, like people watching the blitz stuff just absolutely tanked, and they should take that into consideration. If the high level players are saying, well, I don't want to do it, they should do what NFL and NBA players did. They should form a union and they should take a players association.
I disagree with that a little. It's different there though, right? Because they're
paying the best players in the world, and the best players in the world are choosing to.
But who's the consumer? The consumer of Flesh and Blood are the players. The consumer of the NFL is the audience.
And I understand that. But what I'm saying is, if you're a player who wants to play in the World Championships and they say this is the format, you play it. And if you don't like it, you're allowed to voice your opinion.
That's all I'm saying.
At the end of the day, like, I just don't like the whining, because it's like, they said this is the format. Like, if you're complaining about it, they're not changing it now.
No, but you're saying two different things. You're literally saying they should be able to complain about it and be heard, but also don't complain about it.
Voice your opinion, but don't spend endless hours bitching about it. Like, it's the format. That's what it is. Tell them that you're unhappy about it. But it's the same as me telling you guys, like, I had a real bad experience at this restaurant. It's like, that's great. Did you tell the person that was there, like, helping you, that you had a bad experience? Did you tell the manager? No.
We're gonna link the LSS inbox in the comments below. Any gripes, email them. We don't want to hear about it on social media.
No, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, voice your opinion whether you like it or not. Right. I'm over it because I'm not going to be playing in it. It's whatever. It's a card tournament. Yes, they're paying money. They're paying money to a certain few that do very well, and a lot of other people will.
It's going to be fun regardless. It's going to be a fun.
It will
be.
It's
going to be fun regardless. Yes, they can be playing, go fish for rounds 3 and 4, and people will still probably tune in for it.
Right. Rock, paper, scissors.
I did appreciate one argument that Zach made, which was you do have to realize that there is something to be said about these major tournaments being a big part of what promotes the game. That's why they put so much money. They don't make a lot of money, or if anything, they may lose money on having big companies like Channel Fireball host these events when they have to spend so much money on high-level commentary and high-level production. What are they trying to accomplish with it? They're trying to promote the game. And they're telling you, if you want to make some money playing this game, come play in this tournament and win. But at the end of the day, LSS should be doing what's best for them as a company. And you know what? Showing local people that the World Championships will host Blitz, somebody might go, wait, I'm good at Blitz. I lose at CC, but I'm pretty good at Blitz. Maybe I should try harder in CC. It gives people, or it gives something to identify. You know what? I never played CC because I just haven't played the game that long. But you know what? I understand this portion of the broadcast. I actually play Blitz. I love these decks. And I get it. Whether people like it or not doesn't really matter. But if LSS believes that it's important to the game to show the entire format of their game, there are people, believe it or not, I know all of the elitists of the world don't believe this. There are people who like Blitz. Just like Dear America.
I'm not saying that there isn't. That's
hey America, do you realize people like soccer? I know you don't.
What the fuck did you call it? Hamish, this is for you.
Industry.
What the fuck did you call it?
It's football. I live in America and I don't like it, so I call it soccer.
You also, as LSS, as the NFL does, you want your top players, right? You want the best players at your event to showcase your game, and not so streams like, oh, that guy effed up, that guy effed up. The top players were the ones that all said WTF Blitz when it was released. A lot of top players. You know, a lot of top players.
You know, it's interesting. Some of them have come back on it after seeing the statistics. Well, again, everybody said,
they're going to take in everything. In the points that James made were very valid. They're very good points. I understand 100% what he's talking about. But if people after that, the event, still are not happy about it, they should voice their opinions, and then LSS will decide, is there a better way for us to showcase this format that's not at Worlds? Because there is. Because you know what I remember is every time the skirmishes were going off, people just bitching that there was no streams anywhere. Oh wait, nobody was bitching that there was no streams of skirmishes. So people aren't watching and requesting Blitz to be seen. I've never seen why isn't these Blitz tournaments being showcased like we do for CC tournaments?
Right. But again, you are friends with and follow a bunch of top players. They're not looking for Blitz coverage.
You're talking about general people on the Facebook page.
Right. What I'm saying is you do need to realize that at a high-level tournament, I get that it might not be in the best interest long-term, and if they get bad feedback, that LSS should absolutely reconsider it. But at the same time, I also don't like the whole, well, it's high variance. I don't like it. You know what? There's a very
reason that at all right now.
I think that we should. I think we should ignore that because none of us think that, nor are we ever arguing that.
I understand that we're not, but again, Jason says the top players were complaining about it. They were complaining because their argument was it's too high variance. But again, it's not. Why are the best players winning then?
It's not too high variance. It is higher variance.
It is higher variance. Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't test a different skill set. It's the same game as Flesh and Blood in the mechanical sense. It has a different meta, and it doesn't test your sideboarding skills. It tests your ability to guess the meta, bring the correct deck, and pilot it right.
The only thing I argue about is that is not the same game, because the reason I will say it's not the same game is because the level of power of cards is the same at half the life.
Right. And I understand that. So, but it's
that's
the same
biggest
mechanically, you play the same game in an entirely different meta and format.
Right.
Same mechanically, you have to play a different game, and that's why you have to practice it.
Right. And but I understand that. I get that there are massive differences, that the world of CC and Blitz are completely different beasts. What I'm saying is it does test a different skill set.
I think that a lot of people,
I think that I will defer, in my opinion, I will defer to Michael Hamilton's argument, which is it does test a different skill set. I think a lot of the issues around Blitz are the same as when LSS was trying to get webcam or whatever off the ground. Is everybody's perception of it is so negative for so long, or they have a defined perception of it and therefore will not move from it. But if you look at it, a lot of what people's negative perception was either a Blitz format that is old and outdated that they have not even played in, a la someone like Zach Bunn who admits that they haven't played in it, or B, just this misperception that, well, it was a learner's format. Again, something that they said early on, but have since changed their stance on as a company. And they're allowed to do that because it's their game and they have changed the structure of it.
I want to point out,
I would like Blitz better if you could go to a local armory and people would just have fun with it. I would probably.
That's because you view Blitz as like the casual.
You view Blitz.
Yeah.
They don't want Blitz to be that format. They want Commoner to be that format.
So I will say that I challenge the people listening.
They've said that.
No, they don't want Blitz. Blitz is not an entry-level format. Commoner has clearly taken its place as the entry-level format.
Well, Seth hasn't said that.
They have said that Blitz is not their entry-level format.
When did they say this?
Can I get a quote? James White said it. He said it. He commented on Zach Bunn's post.
Yeah. Send me the link or send me the post.
James
screen cap.
Send me a link on that one.
James White.
I can't.
No.
Until I see a link.
No. Stop it. Blake, I am not against you. I am just telling you to send it to me so I can put it in the podcast.
And I'm saying I'm being a smart ass.
So
100%.
a smart ass. I challenge people to shift their view of Blitz in Worlds, or try to, like I did, because I was viewing it from purely like their goal of Worlds was to test raw pilot skill, and I thought that they had their best format for that, which was CC. But I don't believe that I think it's clear that's not what LSS is testing. LSS is testing commitment. LSS is testing ability to track multiple formats. Like they're testing more than pure pilot skill. So your argument of Blitz being higher variance, I have shifted on, and I think that you should explore shifting on too, because it makes things way less stressful if you don't fucking hate something because you don't fully grasp it. So just like explore that in your own brain space when you got time.
Zach Bunn, skill still matters, but when skill is nearly equal, like it will be at the last 5 rounds of Worlds, why give players half games? When did Blitz become more than a casual format as it was first presented? James White, I literally talked about this the last time I was on your podcast, that Blitz has a place in competitive play at approximately an 80-20 ratio with CC. This is part of the 20%. So James White said, and has made it very clear, that Blitz is seen as something they should test competitively. They want it to be a competitive format.
Was that they want it. So I was just not going to go any further than that. I just viewed your comment as differently than what James White just said.
No,
that's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying
I just viewed it different in my head.
I heard it a little different too, but that's fine.
So anyway,
it's all good.
We're moving off Blitz. Nobody cares
both
about
sides
Blitz anymore.
Yeah. It's not a real format.
So, somebody took home a win with Azalea, correct? In a skirmish.
Right. In a skirmish.
To clarify,
not to
way up
not
front,
to downplay it. Yes.
The whole prize pool thing, which I think has been clarified already, is for CC. It's CC Azalea.
Yes.
That's what the prize pool is, and I'll be posting another tweet.
Quickly,
I'll be posting another tweet about the roll up of where we're at with it, but had no CC Azalea yet.
No, it was quickly clarified when somebody brought it up. They were excited, whatever. They brought it up that it was.
You also said, besides that, Cheyenne got some Living Legend points as well.
Correct. She did. She got a win as well.
Which is very disappointing to me because that was my goal in life. And so my one goal in life is now
officially retiring from Blitz.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. I'll play if I go to the last skirmish, it will be Cheyenne. But it just feels like it's all in vain now and it doesn't matter. She is amazing to play.
I think
I do enjoy playing Cheyenne. Win, lose, draw. It's just fun to play her. That sounds dirty, and maybe it was supposed to be.
I think that you made it sound dirty. It sounded fine.
So apparently the Azalea deck that won had 2 playable blues. I'm not 100% sure what that even means, but I'm trying to find the deck list because that was a comment that kind of threw me.
That could only be the tutor card.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, they played 2 blues. I thought they meant they had like other blues in the deck potentially.
That weren't
There
playable.
were only. Well, I thought maybe they had I, or maybe they put like cards that you wouldn't. It was a weird way to word it.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe it was like cards you would never play, but you just need pitch cards that block for 3. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
You're not going to play Whisper the Oracle necessarily, but it's a pitch 3 that blocks for. It's a pitch 3 that blocks for.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Anyways,
2, count them 2. Knock the death whistles.
Yeah, that'd be the only.
That's the only blues in the entire deck.
So I'm assuming there was no Kano in that tournament.
I mean they have Oasis Respite.
Oh, okay, that makes
that's
a difference.
Just kind of a good. I mean,
they have Feign Death, although Feign Death feels like a pretty big. I guess you could get somebody where a second thing that they hit you with Kano. That's like.
I mean, just if somebody tried to Aether Wildfire you and they didn't have a ton of stuff, and then they hit you with the Blazing Aether, thinking you're dead.
Yeah,
because
I mean, Feign Death's right. And a ninja
if you Blazing Aetherwire for 6, the Blazing's coming in for 12. That's 18 damage.
Right.
So you might just 12. Think you won because you're not running Arcane, and then somebody Feign Deaths that. You're like, oh, son of a bitch! I just lost this Kano. So it's sneaky.
However,
Feign Death's really good in a ninja, isn't it?
It's just the next source of damage. The next time you would take damage, you don't take any, but you have to take damage first. So it is good in a ninja.
Yeah.
I do think a good Kano player shouldn't be gotcha'd by Feign Death because it's as easy as knowing the card exists, and then as soon as they play Feign Death, because it says the next source of damage, it doesn't say that you choose like Oasis Respite.
Instant over the top of that.
You just instant before that resolves, and then when you poke them for like a blue zap for 1, the Feign Death eats that, and then they take the 18 afterwards. It's like, oh man, that Feign Death really got me good.
Yeah, ways around it for sure.
He's like, oh, why would you run 2 of those? And how do you have them this hand?
I would love it if somebody like double Feign Death me. I wouldn't even be mad. That's like a game that I would just lose happily. And you're like, yeah, man, I'm not even mad at you for that. Like,
all right, so
you double Feign me.
So that Blitz segment took up a huge portion of the podcast. We still need to touch on Prism.
Yeah,
I don't know what to think of Prism.
I mean, specifically like the post. Like the difference in thoughts of like the post.
She's going anywhere. She's gonna get runner up in all kinds of tournaments, and she's just gonna be kind of around forever.
it is. She does exist in a weird space where it feels like she hasn't won anything meaningful in God knows how long, but she seems to have gotten all of her points. So what has she won, other than Tyler Horsepool winning? And the New Zealand
you mean like what major event does she come out winning?
Those are there any other major events that she has won?
We don't know other than all those the world callings that she may have won in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Comment if you do. But I haven't looked it up before this. Yeah. So
I guess those 2 are the only 2 that I can think of that are like of note things that she won. Horsepool winner. Right?
I'll be totally honest. Yeah, I have no idea. We don't know. So I'll be totally honest. This is my nightmare as a Prism player. It's like, this is my fucking hellscape. Like, I don't want to be stuck in this weird limbo of like, is she gone? Is she gone yet? Is she like, I fuck that. Fucking get rid of her or let me keep her. Like, let me know what I'm doing here. Because right now I'm just like in this weird limbo state where it's like, do I just burn it and burn it all to the ground, all I practice on that deck and like move on, or do I, now I'm playing a Song of Ice and Fire. So that's what I do.
So here's a bigger issue that I see right now.
Yeah.
Is if Prison LLs, you have Briar, who is at 642. That's one huge event, which could happen if somebody, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then you have Viserai at only 382. Viserai is going to get some wins. After playing him, I'm a
yes
novice Viceroy player, and that can puke out some damage, and you can find more and more lines. So my worry is, I mean, in 12 months, could we have 5 total living legend heroes with all the big tournaments, all the callings, the Pro Tour? You got World,
Nationals.
you have another Pro Quest season, you have Nationals, and they might have to bump living legend points to like a 1500 or lower again, like they did.
that, or are they?
I'm worried about, because I don't want to lose Viscera. I don't want to lose Briar. You know what I mean? I do want to lose Prism. I hate to say it.
No,
I was okay with Bravo and Chain because Chain wrecked a lot of metas.
it's fine.
Prism just gatekeeps too many decks right now.
Yeah, she's an example of just a mechanical error where Spectra will always be that. It falls into that category.
So like what deck?
Because
people are running OG Bravo in tournaments, right?
Yeah.
So like what is she gatekeeping at her current like volume of play?
Dromai is so hard to beat her.
Are people not bringing Dromai because of the abundance of Prism? That's what gatekeeping is to me.
Here's what I look at is, Prism's going to be there. We saw it with Battle Hardened that there was in Portland that people are still bringing Prism, right? So that should be in the back of your mind that Prism will show up. There's a lot of really good Prism players going to Worlds and going to Pro Tour. A lot of good Prism players. So thinking she's not going to be there, I feel like Phi is losing steam because other decks, you just figure out how to block him more efficiently, and getting rid of Stubby Hammers really effed him up, in my opinion. One big turn is gone. That was an extra 6, 7, 8 damage.
So I guess I have historically viewed gatekeeping differently. Gatekeeping is Starvo. Like if you can't beat Starvo gatekeeps that meta. A deck that makes up 4 to 7% of the meta isn't gatekeeping that meta.
It's going to be way higher than 4 to 7%.
So here's hold on.
As an example, right? Not saying that's what Prism's going to be.
So here's a moment where I think we have to step back and kind of omit our TCG past, because in other games, typically power level of decks is very high. Like Starvo level high is how most metas are run, and then that deck traditionally gatekeeps. Just like in Fab, where we have to think of control differently, I think we have to think of like gatekeeping differently, because we have a very limited pool of heroes. So it's different. We don't have an extensive pool of heroes or combination of heroes or deck versions that you can do. The issue is mechanically what Prism does is it makes certain decks to where it's a very high risk to bring something. I think she doesn't gatekeep per se. I think what she has done is created this weird situation where players have different perceptions of the meta, because you have to think less about what's popular and more about locally, if I think I'm going to see a bunch of Prisms, I just can't bring Bravo at all because that matchup is unplayable.
So to be fair, I think that it also depends. I think that the gatekeeping is more of a spectrum, right? So it's like if you're looking at
it is
a spectra. Yeah, there you go. No, but like if you're looking at it, like if there's a deck that I lose 70-30 into, but that deck is going to be making up 60% of the field, I would consider that deck gatekeeps decks that it beats to that level, right? I think that when you drop into like more of like the auto lot, like more like the 15% or less of the field, but it's an auto loss. Like if I just fucking auto lose and it's going to be 15 to 20% of the field, I would still consider that gatekeeping, right? Even though it's like far less of the field, it's just such a hard loss that like you have to really consider what you bring, knowing that that is just a hard loss, right? So like there's that spectrum that kind of like, as like the percentage of the field increases, like your win percentage into it increase, decrease, whatever it is. You guys know what I'm saying. So I'm at the point now where I feel like Prism has dropped in like field representation to the point where it's starting to balance out a little bit more with the decks that like hard lose into her. Because I don't think Dromai, OG Bravo,
both Wizards, both Guardians, Dromai, Dorinthia. Like that's 6 decks alone in a game where we only have like 12 heroes.
17. We have 17 total heroes.
17 heroes. She basically says a third of you are going to lose to me almost instantaneously. You cannot beat me. So it just I don't think
by my own definition then.
So that can't beat her too.
So by my own definition then, like that many decks that just take hard losses, I would say if Prism is 10 to 15% of the field, that I would still look at that as gatekeeping. So yeah, I would agree with you. After looking at this analytically and giving feedback and being open to changing my opinion, because no one fucking does that in this world anymore. But I'd say, okay, that's fair. I'd say she's still considered gatekeeping.
All the time when I'm wrong, I'm just never wrong. So it's hard to change it.
I would even say that, to your point, gatekeeping is kind of an odd word to use for her, where she more skews the formats.
Yeah,
and that's maybe the bigger issue. Is in this game, it feels like
a good term. We can rename it.
The thing is, too, is I think that gatekeeping more applies.
It's Prism.
Gosh,
cock blocks.
I don't know what's Prism have to do with that. Is it because she's a girl, Jason? Jesus Christ.
100%.
No, so
100%.
No, what I would say, gonna hate that, by the way. That comment. So
I don't even know who that is.
That's the you blocked. It's a fucking.
I wasn't saying names, but
I know I'm gonna cut that out. I'm
There we go.
I'm gonna bleep it. No, so I fucking totally lost my train of thought because the cock blocking comment. God damn it.
Well,
gatekeeping. Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, gatekeeping. I feel like too, it's a little different in this game. Because I feel like in a lot of games you have people that are committed to like a certain play style, but I feel like there's a lot of heroes that give you those similar play styles. I've actually changing up from what I thought this game was going to be. You still have the truthers, right? That we talk about, like the Katsu truthers and stuff like that. But I've actually seen a lot less of like people committed to a specific archetype or play style in this game than I've seen in other games. Which is weird because I really thought people were going to be like, this hero's my hero. But like I see people play, like I don't see a lot of that actually.
There's 3 cults, strong cults in this game. One is brute cults. Brute players are freaking brute players. Like they are strong with that cult. That's one thing in this.
Speaking of, next week I'm going to be on Tommy Fresh's podcast, Fresh and Bloods. So check that out.
Together.
Brute strong. Together strong.
Dory cultists. There is Dory, like true Dory is just that's number 2. And 3 is Bergie playing ninjas because
I like how you don't include Azalea cult, like the biggest one.
The Azalea cult,
they're the most helpless. So
they're just hoping. They're just believing.
You don't even announce them because they haven't really done anything. They're the ones like, why weren't they come back from the rally and nobody says anything about them at the news?
It is? They are
talking about us because they don't do anything.
Only American fans will appreciate it. They are Detroit Lions fans. That's what they are.
Yes,
they keep
100%.
believing that someday we're going to get there, guys. We're going to get
the best.
there.
They've got the best internet meme. They've got the best internet meme game.
Yeah.
Like they've got just like the coolest, like most fun fans. Sorry, everyone else.
They have the equivalent of the thing. Their Azalea's inability to win in majors is the same as it's like a perfect. It's perfectly represented by Dan Orlovsky as the quarterback of the Lions, just running out of the back of the end zone for a safety while still looking downfield, believing he was going to somehow throw a touchdown, and Jared Allen just going, he's out of bounds. We just like blow it dead or something. And the ref's just standing there completely in shock.
He still believes he can complete that pass to this day.
To this day, he's still looking downfield.
He has nightmares where he's like, I got him.
He wakes up, he's like, he was open.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
His wife's like, Dan, go back to bed.
Fuck.
I don't think we have anything else, do we?
No.
This was supposed to be a short one. God damn it. No, we're good. We're good. Yeah, no, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I don't think so. I you know what, Azalea Cult, we make fun of you, but
we've put more effort into your cult than any other
I
cult.
have Azalea built, and I get discouraged by other players of like, why are you bringing a bad deck? You're not helping the community. Many people discourage me from playing Azalea.
Who says you're not helping the community?
Dylan. No. There's
That's
no
the
doubt
only
in my
person
mind
I can think of.
Dylan has uttered those words. No doubt about it.
I could name 5 people, which I will not. 5 people that just say, "Put away Azalea."
That's actually
Hold on.
That's flat shitty. If any of those 5 are listening, they don't be a shitty. Jason literally will run source. Jason will run source events, and you're saying he is shitty for the community for bringing a deck? Fuck you. He could bring a goddamn Digimon deck.
Community. They're saying it's just a bad deck, which it is a bad deck.
Well, those are very different things, Jason.
Argue with the people when she has 0 living legend points. It's hard to argue, but I love to play Azalea. There's something about loading an arrow and drawing a card that is very soothing to me, especially when you have that one blue pitch and you're like, I get to draw a card, input this into my arsenal. This is the greatest thing ever. How do I lose with this deck? And then you never win.
Then you're like, wait, I only get to fire 1 arrow a turn. That's it. I don't have. How do I not have an option to get this arrow go again?
Either I have all buff cards or all arrow cards. Equally horseshit.
He's got
nothing.
Death Dealer Lexi.
Like
Death Dealer Lexi. Just
nothing says Azalea like firing a single arrow for 4 damage with a sad little on hit effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this one hits you, it deals you 1 more damage.
Your first attack costs you 1 more. It's like, oh no.
What else? What else does it do? So if I keep all of my cards and I can deal you 30, I'm gonna take 5 for this 1 arrow.
Mm-hmm.
You need 6 more red in the ledgers. If she can run 9 red in the ledgers, like give her a buy. Like, hey, you can run 9 red in the ledgers. Now we have something. Now you know, with a couple of memorial grounds in there, get it up to like half your deck is red in the ledger. Maybe she wins.
The issue, I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
We've got another supplemental set coming. Dynasty.
I'm not gonna make any more comments because that just added another 5 minutes because I had to say something at the end there. So everybody, thank you for joining us for yet another week. This is episode 99, coming up on episode 100. So that's crazy. But thank you guys all for joining us and really stepping it up in the comments too. Like, that's super fun for us, and definitely please respond because we want to have sponsors for our video, and our sponsors don't pay us because we don't let anyone pay us. So we want our community members to sponsor us.
Don't expect us to pay you, okay?
Yeah,
so,
no. Just so it's clear.
I feel like we should just be like this. No, I'm not going to say that. Never mind, because I don't want to discourage people. But Andrew, thank you for all of your comments. I was going to make a joke about how it's just going to be the question of the week sponsored by Andrew.
He's already
probably should get the first one.
He's going to get the first
next week. Next week,
one of the best comments I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that is not to say that we're not going to be open-minded about other people commenting. That's why I didn't want to say. Anyways,
I'm going to be very close-minded in the first one.
Show him up. Bring it.
Yeah, bring it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to y'all next week. Peace.